Hello, my friends. Happy Friday afternoon. This is Sarah Susov. I am the founder of Step Up Mentoring, and I'm here today to talk with you all about behavior, which is one of my favorite things to talk about because there are so many cool things that you can do to shape it. When I became a stepmom 12 years ago, and when I met my husband's daughters 14 years ago, I had no clue what I was doing. Because as you know, you don't go from the hospital with a manual for your kids that says, here's how you raise them. This one's going to be a little bit more sensitive than this one. You can train them and shape their behavior and do things to help them positively. And through my graduate program, I learned a lot of that. And that's what I'm here to talk with you about today. So I'm going to share my screen with you for just a minute and show you some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. Okay, so we're here to learn about how to positively shape your children's behaviors. And that is tricky for a lot of people because, like I said, we've never learned how. We've never been taught how to do this. And if you don't know, then you can't do it, and that's fine. But the more you know, the more you can do, which is awesome. So just a little quick introduction to me. I'm Sarah Susov. I'm a school psychologist. I'm a speaker and a mentor. And I work a lot with parents and step parents to help them adjust to their role, find more success and peace, and be more happy. And I love to travel with my family, and I love to help other people. That's my favorite thing in the world to do. Okay, so a quick note before we go into this. Children, I love this quote, because children are these little moldable, shapeable people, and they are like a sponge, and they absorb everything that we tell them absorb. Sometimes when it's been a long week, words are hard. So children have this way of absorbing everything we tell them about us, about life, about themselves. And so this quote, that children have a way, an amazing way of becoming exactly who we tell them they are. If we tell them they are strong, they become strong. If we tell them they are kind, they become kind. If we tell them they are capable, they become capable. Speak life into your kids so they will have what it takes to tackle their own life one day. And I think, like I said a second ago, like it's hard. We don't get this manual when kids come from the hospital, or if you adopted them when they come from their other homes. We don't know how to do this, and we're not ever taught. And so all we have to go on is off of our own experiences, which may or may not have been helpful for you. And if it's not helpful, that is completely okay, because nobody's parents are perfect. They can be great parents, but not perfect parents. So the takeaway for today is that you get to decide to be whatever kind of parent you want to be. And that can change over time, and it probably will change over time, especially if you are growing and learning and you want to become a better person, a more loving person, a stronger person, a better parent, all that. So be intentional with your parenting is the first takeaway. And make sure that your kids know how much you love them and that they're good kids. There are a lot of behavior basics, things that are good to know about behaviors, about kids, about any kind of fun stuff like that. So all behavior, any behavior that any of us engage in, is communication. And we think about that a lot for kids who are not able to speak yet because they're 0 to 2-ish. They're not able to tell us what they want. They have to show us. Sometimes their behaviors are tantruming or yelling or crying or screaming. Sometimes they will take you and lead you to something that they want to show you. It just depends, but they're trying to communicate with you. But then when kids get older and start to use their words, we tend to forget that behavior is communication. We tend to forget that we need to watch our kids and see what they're trying to tell us and what they're trying to communicate with us. And we'll talk a little bit more in depth in a minute about what things kids can try to communicate. We know the basics, like they're tired, they're hungry, they need a break, things like that, but there are a lot more. Okay, behavior usually centers around something unpleasant or something the child wants to change. I'm going to take a step back for just a minute because behavior is a thing that all of us engage in. When I don't want to do the dishes, I will find anything else to do. It doesn't matter what it is, I will just find it and I will do something different to avoid doing the dishes. If they pile up more and more in the sink, I'm trying to get out of doing the dishes. I don't want to do the dishes. That is what I would like to change. No dishes. That's probably my least favorite chore. All of us are like that. We all behave around something that we want to change and something that we feel maybe out of control with. The next behavior basic is that behavior has a purpose, and it's our task to figure out what that is. A lot of times working in the schools, it's easy for people to forget this because we forget that kids are behaving around a purpose. We think that they're being defiant. We think that they're being intentionally rude, or they're trying not to learn, or something, but our behavior has a purpose. One of the ways that I see it most in my middle school students is if they have, for example, ADHD or maybe a learning disability, then they might struggle a little bit to, let me just say it this way, they're a little bit naughty and they're trying to cover up their deficits in either executive functioning, which is that planning and organization, time management, remembering what they're supposed to do, or they're trying to cover up for their academic deficits. So if they can't read out loud, it's easier to be the naughty kid and to misbehave than it is to be the dumb kid. And a lot of kids feel like that's a better option for them. So think about how you see that at your home too. What ways do you see that in? What is the purpose of your kid's behavior? The next one is that your child's behavior is currently meeting some need for them. So like I talked about a second ago with the dishes, I don't like to do the dishes. I hate doing the dishes. And that need that I want to have met is to escape doing the dishes. And so that behavior, that need is being met by me not doing the dishes. Next, you have to plan your approach to changing your child's behavior. And I want to stop for just a second here and take a minute on this one, because you can plan your approach and your approach can work. So when we're parenting, a lot of times it's really hard not to be reactive, not to have something happen in that moment and react to it instead of deciding, hey, today this is how I want to parent. And when my child throws gum at me or poops on the floor or does whatever fun thing children are doing, it's hard not to react to that. And so there are a lot of things that tie into behavior that I'm not going to go into on this webinar, but I'm happy to talk to you about later if you want to do that. When you plan your approach to changing your child's behavior and you take steps to doing it that work, it works. It can change, and it can change behavior, and it can change everything for your kiddo. Luana, hi. Let me see. Just one second. I'm going to mute you. Perfect. Okay. So this is our behavior basics that we're talking about. And basically, when you make an approach to changing your kiddo's behavior, it works. So if you are coming in late, I'm just going to ask you to go back and watch the replay. And I'm going to change one more thing on here, Luana. It's showing you me right now. Okay, perfect. All right. So when you do take steps to change your child's behavior, an intentional planned approach works. And that I think is amazing because it's so helpful to know what you're doing and to feel like you're going to be successful. And the last one we're going to talk about is consistency. And that is just hard in general for humans for the most part. It's hard for us to go to the gym regularly. It's hard for us to eat healthy foods. It's hard for us to go to bed on time. It's hard for us to do lots of things, and being consistent makes it really tough. So if you can't be consistent with trying to shape your child's behavior or your children's behavior, it's better not to start at all, because you'll get frustrated and they'll get frustrated with it. So if you can't be consistent, just wait until you can be consistent. And there is 100% no judgment with that. I know as a parent, I only have so much emotional bandwidth. And if something's outside of my emotional bandwidth, the energy that I have to take it on, I'm not going to do it. It's just not like going to be worth it for me emotionally. So if you can't be consistent, just wait until you can, wait until you're a little bit less stressed out. The last thing that I want to talk about that I didn't put on here is if you're trying to change a behavior, pick one. You can't change that your child is wetting the bed and that they're fighting with their siblings and that they're not putting their toys away and that they're not being compliant with your requests. You can't work on all those at once. It doesn't work. So if you are looking to change a behavior, pick one that's the most important to you or the most problematic for your child or children. So if you want them to work on fighting, just pick fighting, and that's fine. And then once you have molded that behavior, then you can pick another one to work on. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about that I didn't put on here also is what we call in special ed an extinction burst. And what that means is when you're trying to stop a behavior from happening, it's going to get worse at first. It just does. And that's normal and it's okay. So just hang on. Usually the longest they last that I've heard of is about 2 weeks. And you have to be consistent, because if your child escalates and you back down, then they're going to get the message that you're not serious about this and that it doesn't matter to you. So expect an extinction burst, expect that it will be a little bit of a struggle, and that your child's behaviors will escalate. In my work, we see this all the time. So I talk about this a lot. I have kids with any kind of disability that I work with. So it could be autism. Luana, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay? Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, so the disabilities that I work with could be things like autism. It could be a specific learning disability. It could be something like ADHD, anxiety, or depression. It could be kids with what we call emotional disturbances, which are the kids who kind of punch everybody and start a lot of stuff and just big instigators, and they get in trouble all the time and they get office discipline referrals. I get kids who have intellectual disabilities, what we used to call mental retardation when I was growing up. So I have a huge spectrum of kids that I work with. And these behavioral things that I'm going to teach you work with those kids. It doesn't matter what kind of kid you're working with and how naughty the kid is. These things work. Okay, so any behavior can have 4 functions, and it's either tied to getting out of something or trying to get something. And if you want these slides, I can send them to you later, so you don't have to take as many notes if that works. I know when I'm trying to take notes, I'm like, I'm not paying as much attention as I want to. So with the functions of behavior, I talked about earlier not wanting to do the dishes. I'm trying to escape. So we're either trying to get something or we're trying to get out of something, and there are 4 purposes with each of those. So when we're trying to escape, that's when we see kids a lot have happen. They are escaping something that they don't want. So they're getting out of doing something they don't want to do. Attention is pretty easy. It usually happens when kids misbehave, and then mom or dad comes in and says, hey, knock that off. And then the kid continues to behave in that way because they got attention somehow. Or they're trying to get out of having adult attention. A lot of my middle schoolers try to get out of adult attention because being with their peers is really reinforcing to them, and adult attention is not. And so if you have a kiddo who's trying to get attention from someone else and you're trying to shape their behavior, you want to make sure that they can get attention from that person. The function of the behavior always has to tie in to the replacement behavior. If they're trying to get attention and you're giving them tangible items, it's not going to work. It's not going to shape their behavior long term. They can also try to get access to a tangible item. I see this one a lot in my school, in my ID, self-contained support classroom. Kiddos trying to get the iPad, trying to get to go out on a walk, which is tangible and sensory, and escape from work. So sometimes behaviors can have different functions. And then sometimes there's a sensory function. You'll see like toddlers chewing on stuff all the time. But sometimes kids with autism or excuse me, sensory processing disorder might be trying to get out of sensory input, or they might be trying to get more sensory input. Either one can happen. And so it's just paying attention to what they do. So the easiest way to figure out what the function of your kiddo's behavior is to watch what happens right after they do the behavior. If they are yelling at their siblings and then you yell at them, and they continue to yell at your siblings and then you continue to yell at them, they're probably getting attention from it. And kids who are attention seeking will take whatever attention they can get. It doesn't matter for them if it's negative attention or positive attention. It's just attention. Okay. If your kiddo, excuse me, tries to leave because it's too noisy, or the lights are too buzzy, or somebody's driving them crazy, then they're probably trying to escape sensory. Or if they're always trying to access something, like in a spinny chair, if they spin around and around and around, or if they run around in the room, they might be trying to get some sensory input. I'm going to take questions at the end, and I'll unmute you when that happens. So if you have any questions, you can either type them into the chat box, or you can ask them at the end, or if you're watching this later on, please feel free to send me a message and I'll chat with you about it. We can set up a call from time to talk. Okay, so some questions for you. What behaviors is your child doing or are your children doing that you want to change? And then this is stuff I want to go into more on the one-on-one calls or through messages. What have you tried so far and what has worked? We, sorry, sometimes I have thoughts and I'm like, no, don't share that. That was what just happened. It was about school-related stuff. So a lot of times we're like, I've tried everything, nothing works. And we just need to tweak something a little bit or change something a little bit. In the school, we have a triangle that we use a lot right now for interventions. And in that triangle, I will send this out if you guys are interested. I forgot to put it in here because I was kind of in a rush. But in that triangle, there are 3 levels. In the first level, we call it tier 1. And in tier 1, those are things that work for 80% of the kids. And those are instructional strategies or behavioral strategies that are working for that many kids. And I'm going to talk about positive behavior in just a second. In tier 2, it's 10 to 15% of the kids need more structure and more help and support. And then in tier 3, it's 5 to 10% of kids. So the point of that triangle is that what you're doing on your tier 1 interventions should be successful for 80% of the time for your kids or for 80% of kids. And if you only have 2 kids, it's hard to measure that. So you might want to measure it in time if you're interested in that. So your things that you're doing at home can be like house rules, positive reinforcement systems, ways for kids to get out of doing things that they don't like, different things like that. Those would be tier 1 interventions that you could try. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a little bit, but right now, Luana, I'm going to unmute you because you're on here. Do you have any questions so far?
Not really. Well, are these just for children that have special needs, or is this for all children?
That's an awesome question. Thank you. This works for all children. And in our school setting, we recommend that, just a second, sorry. We recommend that even with kids who are non-disabled or what we call neurotypical, we recommend that teachers do these interventions and find things out to work for kids, because when you put time in up front to help decrease behaviors, it's going to make everything else easier. When your kids know what your expectations are, when they know what they get reinforced for, they are going to do, they're just going to be happier. So
yeah, I agree.
So,
my 6-year-old grandson is experiencing some different things though, and so I want to help secure him, make him more secure, and help him where I can. It's a broken household, so I don't have a ton of control outside of the time that I spend with him directly. So do you feel it's more, I'm sorry.
I'm going to pause you for just a second. I'm going to share this later on YouTube, so I just don't want you to like tell me too much information that you don't want to share. Is that okay? And then I'd be happy to jump on a call with you and talk about this more in depth.
Okay.
How much time are you with him? Like how much time?
A couple of days a week.
Okay. Yes.
So I guess my question would be, is it better when a grandparent has limited time with a child? Is it better not to try to change a behavior, but just to show support and love to them?
That's a really good question. And that kind of ties back into those tier 1 interventions, because you have to have a good relationship with the kiddo for this to work. So if you feel like you have a good relationship with him, you definitely can do some of these things. And I think this is what I tell co-parents too, because they don't have a lot of the time with the kids either, as much as another parent would have. So if you have a great relationship with them and you've worked on that, you can definitely do this. And this should be a positive thing. It shouldn't be a thing that they feel too frustrated about, except when they go through their extinction burst. But it should be an opportunity to build the relationship even further, and it gives them some stability and security. So I really like that question.
Okay. So if you're going to share this on YouTube, should I be off camera?
Nope, you're completely fine, my friend. I'm recording
Okay.
already, so you are
Okay.
good. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to mute you for just a second, and then we're going to, okay. So, all right. So because I love behavior so much, and I love to talk to people about it, I'm going to be offering a behavior class. And this behavior class is going to start the last week of October. It's going to be on Thursday nights. Actually, I'm not going to do it that night because it's going to be Halloween. So I'm going to start it the first week of November. It's going to be on Thursday, November 7th, and it's going to be a 4-week class. So we'll go more in depth about behaviors, about functions of behaviors. We'll answer more questions. I will answer more questions about behavior and how to shape that and target what you might be struggling with. So we can go more in depth on that. It's going to be a 4-week thing, so it'll be November 7th, 14th, 21st, and we're going to skip a week on the 28th because it's Thanksgiving, and we'll go to December 5th. So if that works, then I will put that up later. I would love to have you guys involved in that, and that is going to be $197. If you sign up by October 12th, that will be $147. So I would love to have you all on that. It's my favorite thing to talk about, behavior. It's so much fun. With students, I get to deal with so many behaviors between tantruming, fighting, screaming, yelling, crying, masturbating. I've seen it happen quite a few times in my ID cluster. We've had kids that punch other kids. We've had kids that escape and run away. So there are so many things that I've experienced at my school, and I love to help and teach with other people. So that will be starting again November 7th, and it will go for 4 weeks. If you know anybody, if you're watching this after the 12th of October, and you know anybody who you would like to share this with, I will give you a discount on that as well. So if you bring somebody along with you, I'll give it to you also for $147. Okay, so do you have any other questions right now?
No, I would just like to introduce this to my son and see if it's something that might help him.
Perfect. Okay, that sounds great. I'm going to go ahead and mute you for just a second. All right, so you can sign up. Right now, sign up by messaging me, and we'll get it up on my website ASAP. My website is www.sarahsusoff.com. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm not a website person. I'm not a technical, so my husband knows how to do it, and we're going to get it on there. Okay. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a minute, and have a great day.